experience as well. Interests are important. Most people think, so why should we keep it in my CV? But it's important because of the reasons I told you earlier. Make sure you provide evidence, membership of clubs, for example. If you have any memberships, you can list it here. Your responsibilities as a member, you can provide some information. And you can focus on achievements. So if you organized an event, you were in the organizing committee, what your responsibilities were, and what you achieved during this experience. Sorry. Other skills like computing, other languages, and what level of fluency, you should be indicating those on your CV. Other details like seminars or conferences, if you have attended any, you might have presented a paper or something, you could list those things. Voluntary work, it's also important. You can list under voluntary work, for example, whatever you did. It could be teaching, private tutoring, helping in an organization, for example. These are important issues, and it's certain that they will appear during the interview stage. It will give you an advantage over the other candidates. And referees, the references part. Normally 2 referees are required. You need to provide the full name and the title, the address, email, phone number, the contact information of this person you picked. You need to talk to this person in advance, ask for their permission. Hocam, I'm applying for this job and I need to use your name on my CV, so is it okay, sort of? You get permission and provide them with information about what job you're applying and what are the skills required, what kind of institution it is. And usually they call these people and talk to them on the phone. Sometimes they want written, a reference letter or something in applications. So they will tell you what kind of information they require, and you will act accordingly. So basically, this is all about CV. These are the things that you should be listing in an organized manner. But as you create your CV, you need to make sure that you customize it and update your CV for every job application, highlighting the right pieces of information so that they will stand out. And using the space effectively is very important. Most relevant information gets most space. If it's work experience and you have a lot of work experience, that should be attracting attention on your CV. And that's what you prioritize, and you put this information on your first page, of course. And standardize font size and type, and avoid clutter. You shouldn't be writing things everywhere. It should be really organized and neat if you want to attract attention during the first screening process. And organizing information well is the second thing you should consider. Using headings and bullet points is quite important for you to prioritize information. The sections should be really clear and organized, starting with the most important to the least important details. Highlighting the relevant information, you can make it bold or underline, for example, and you could just change their places. The most important thing should get attention first. And evidence for your skills, they should be provided. Action words are important. What's an action word? Do you know what it means? Any idea? For your job-related experience or any kind of experience you want to highlight on your CV, what is it that you did as a person? Okay? You don't say, I learned this, I did this. If you know how to write lesson plans, for example, you could say practiced writing lesson plans or create something. Okay? So what action you took to be able to accomplish that goal, that's the word you pick and you write it accordingly. Spell check and restrict to 2 pages. Any CV longer than that might be eliminated. So just focus on the most important bits of information. As you get more experienced, you have more things to write on your CV. So that's something that you should keep for later years, maybe. So what kind of qualities do employers seek when they look at your CV? Whether this person has a good all-round intelligence, which means you're not good at lesson planning only, but you are good at in your communication skills Okay, you are a well-read person, for example. So, as a whole, whether you are the right fit or not. Enthusiasm, commitment, and motivation. So, is there any evidence on your CV which shows that you are committed to something? Being a member in a club and doing this for 5 years, that might be a sign of commitment, for example. Or you want poor kids and you taught them English for free and you did it for 5 years, that's a sign of commitment and enthusiasm and motivation on your part. Good communication skills, whether you were a part of a group, you did group projects, for example, you highlight those on your CV and they could see some evidence there. Teamwork ability to solve problems. Are you someone who's getting demotivated really easily when you face a problem, or do you try to solve that problem or not? Capacity to work hard, initiative and self-reliance, balanced personality. These are all the things that they are looking for, and these skills should be highlighted on your CV and in your interview as well. Transferable skills are important. These are the skills that you could transfer from one job to another or one activity to another. Something that you think is quite irrelevant to teaching might be equipping you with some skills that you might use later on in your life, like analytical ability, flexibility, or logical thinking, coping with deadlines, time management. These are really important. In teaching, these are also quite important. So think about those skills that you can transfer from one activity to the new job environment. And these are the things you should be highlighting in your interview as well. Here you can see a sample CV, the first page, the first half only, but I think it's enough. So you see something like objective at the top. This is optional. This shows why you are applying for this job. What is your aim in making this application? This is used when you walk into an institution, they don't have any advertisement or vacancy at all. You just leave your CV. You indicate that you're interested in a job, and if they have vacancies in the future, they should call you, for example, your first contact, and you initiated yourself. So that's what you write, and they know by reading the objective section what you're interested in or what position you're interested in. Education comes first, and then you see teaching experience. Here on the left-hand side, you can see the titles and categories. You can see that they are quite easy to spot and see. And on the right-hand side, you see the related information about these sections. And with the bullet points, you list whatever skill you acquired, the ones stated here, over here. Participated in establishing goals and objectives for the classroom, utilized multiple evaluation methods, created and implemented lesson plans, managed classroom of 25 students. So in action, using action words, this person lists whatever it is that she can do, or she practiced enough and she trusts in herself. So that's why she listed such things. So when people are screening CVs, there are some red flags. So when they see it, they just toss it away. They don't consider the remaining issues. Too much or too little information. It's a really weak CV and you don't really take it seriously. Or too crowded, you don't really bother in that case. Gaps in employment or academic studies. For example, as a student, you have this gap for 2 years. You stopped being a student and then you came back. So that will attract attention, and that might be an indication of something negative maybe. So if you're invited to an interview, you have to make sure that you explain it in a positive light, preferably. Or this might be a reason why your CV is eliminated. Job hopping, changing jobs really frequently, and short-term employment in various jobs, for example. This might be an indication of not being quite good at communication skills, or you get bored easily, you're not committed or motivated enough, you don't know what you want. Okay, so these are all negative things people might think about you, and you don't want that. So try to stay in one place and do your best to accomplish your goals as a person or to develop yourself in that job. Complete a new career direction. You were trained to become a teacher, but for 5 years you worked in someplace else, and then you decided to be a teacher again, so on and off and on and off, and you don't know what you want. So that's something that will attract attention. Inconsistencies in dates, overlapping things. For example, you cannot be in 2 different places at the same time, so you have to pay attention to such details. Unprofessional email address. Okay. Bad structure. If it's not well organized, it doesn't look neat and clean, they don't really bother. Okay. This might indicate something about you as a person, whether you pay attention to detail and whether you take things seriously or not. Okay. So as you notice, all these things lead to some assumptions about you as a person. So it's a reflection of you as a person, and you have to take this really seriously. Cliches in your CV. It says the hardworking. So there are some words that people love using, and you can see those words in every CV. So don't ever copy and paste material from the internet. You have to make sure that you adapt it and use synonyms and change some structures or the sentences and make it your own. Okay, that's quite important. No personality or enthusiasm. Not targeted to position. These are the things that will lead to elimination at the first step. Grammar mistakes and typos and missing words. Of course, make sure that everything looks so perfect and neat and clean, free of errors. So that's what will get you to the second step in your job application. So after your CV is considered, if you are the one with the potential in the eyes of the recruiters, they will invite you to the second stage. That's the job interview. Have you ever had a job interview before, for some reason? Yes, you did? How was it? Stressed? Okay. Anybody else? You did?
I had it last week.
Last week? So how was it? Was it tough?
A bit.
Was it long or short? How long did it take?
Yeah, it was longer than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
I expected half an hour, but we talked about 2.5 hours. But
2.5.
nice.
1.5?
2.5.
2.5.
Yes.
Wow. That's more than the interview.
Yeah, it's hard, but half of things.
So does it mean they liked you?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
And I liked them as well.
All right.
Half of the interview was some other things.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So did you get the job? What's the result?
I got it, but I'm not sure whether I will go or not.
Oh, wow.
I'm choosing the job.
Yeah.
I think as well, that's why.
That's a great thing. Any experience is good when it comes to interview skills, because it's really hard. In my final year, before even we got the diploma, we had to take these exams. It was like at the end of May or something, and Bilkent University was the first one offering a job, and that was this exam, and all of us learned about it, and the whole department was there to take the exams, believe me. And the second step was the interview. It was so stressful. It lasted like 1 hour or more than 1 hour maybe. So they asked a lot of questions. And I didn't have any idea. That was my very first experience. And there were 2 people interviewing me, and they were asking all these questions, which experienced teachers can normally answer about classroom management, what you would do in a specific situation. It was really tough. And then I took the interview for the modern languages department, then the basic English at Metro. All were different. So there were no similarities. The people, their attitudes, they were different. So it's hard to say an interview is something like this, and you should do this. It's not that simple. But I'll try my best to tell you what is important and what's not. And maybe you could learn something and apply this in your application process later on.
Can I ask something before?
Yep, go ahead.
Because you said that a short-term job will not
Maybe you could select the most important, most relevant ones. The ones you are proud of, like you're proud to bring up during the interview stage, etc. So you can choose the ones that will be relevant to your application. But being a student and working, that's something else. I'm talking about life after graduation. So you graduated, the only thing you're supposed to do is work, but you change your work really frequently. That's what I meant, actually. But being a student and working, that's a great thing. I don't think you should eliminate things. But it depends on what you did and how relevant they are.
I want to ask something. I had only one job interview, and the man asked me what are my weak parts of my personality. I couldn't say anything because nothing.
I don't have any weaknesses. Is that what you said? No?
If you say anything or being a political is good thing.
I'll talk about the common questions and how to answer them in a minute, okay? So let's talk about types of interviews first. There are very different types of interviews, and you could see one of these things in the future. One-on-one interview, one person asking the question, the candidate answering the questions. Panel interview means you have a group of people in front of you, like 6 people or 7 people. They take turns asking you different questions. And one person could be the teacher, trainer, for example, 2 or 3 people from the administrative staff, someone who's responsible for the course management. For example, anybody who will have an idea about whether you are the right candidate or not, they could be in the panel asking you questions. Behavioral interview means, for example, they ask you questions like, you have a problem like this, you experience this issue, how would you handle that in the classroom? What would be your response, sort of thing. So they try to understand how you would behave in a specific situation, and they choose these situations from their own work environment, the things that they face every day, the problems they face every day in that environment, and whether you are capable of solving those problems or not. Group interview, candidates are placed in the same room, like 3-4 candidates, and you work together to solve a problem, and people watch you, okay, whether you can do it or not. You could be asked to give a presentation or a demo lesson, for example. It's part of the interviews for teaching especially. Case interviews, a case is provided, and you're supposed to comment about that case and how you would solve that problem, for example. Or you could be taking video conferencing type of interview, and it could be on the phone or through Skype or something. So in a successful interview, good preparation is the key. Presentation, how you present yourself to the other parties, and the content of your answers. These are the things you should be really focusing on. For preparation, before the interview, you have to review your own skills, experiences, and qualities. Job requirements will come really handy. Check CV or application form. You should know what you have written on your CV before you go into the interview. You should know it by heart, so that there won't be any mismatches or inconsistencies in your answers. Identify relevant skills and experiences, because these should be the things you will be highlighting during the interview. You should be inserting those little important keywords into your answers, maybe. And how motivated and interested you are. Research the institution. This is something that many people forget, and it's very crucial. There might be some questions during the interview. It's not direct questions, but they understand whether you know about this institution or not. Ne iş olsa yaparım attitude is not correct. Even if that's how you feel, still you should know enough about the institution, because you will be using that information during your interview. So check their reports or news, websites. Personal visit to the department might be handy. You can talk to one of the instructors working there. Just stop by and knock on their door and ask for information. Personal contacts. You might know some friends working there. You could talk to those people. Check their mission, vision. These are available on their websites. History of the institution, the position, the work you will be performing, job descriptions and work environment. Try to collect information about all these issues, okay? Because this will give you the chance to prove that you can fit in that institution. Prepare your answers and practice these answers before you go to the interview. Every institution, they ask similar questions. There's a set of questions and they pick the ones which are relevant. They can change the wording, but they ask pretty much the same thing. So anticipating the questions is a good idea. For example, people who graduated last year from the same department and who started working in one of the departments at Bilkent University, other universities for example, you can talk to them and ask them what kind of questions they had to answer during the interview and try to get ready because you might find similar questions in the interview stage. Be prepared to give specific examples, saying, I'm really motivated, I like my job, I'm good at lesson planning. These are really vague answers. Go there with some proof in your mind, okay? So what makes you good in lesson planning? What makes you different from all the other candidates? You should be ready to answer that question. Whenever you give a general answer, there will be another question about it. Like what? They could ask. Okay? Or they say, can you give me an example? You should be ready with the examples and specific evidence. And prepare your own questions to ask the employer. Towards the end of the interview, they might say, do you have any questions for us? And you should have a question ready before you go there, because it's very hard to think right there at that moment. So prepare nice questions. There are lots of alternatives. You can find really nice questions on the internet, easy to find. And know where you are going. Check the directions, parking space, how long it takes to go there, for example, what building, what floor, whether you can find the room in that building. So these are all time-consuming things, and you may end up late for the interview, and you don't want that. And the dress code for the institution. You can go there and watch and observe people, see what they're wearing for work every day, and you should be wearing something similar, maybe, for the interview, which is an indication that you really fit well in that place. Be confident and positive because you have succeeded so far. Going through the first stage, you are invited to the interview, which means they have seen something in you. There is a potential, and this is your chance to shine and show that you have all these skills that they require, and they want to fill the position. So last year, I was the one giving the interview to the candidates in our department, and I really found that we need people, and we need motivated, hardworking people, and we start every interview with that idea in mind. We want to recruit you, and you should be proving that you are the right person. So this is a win-win situation for both parties. So don't think that they are there to judge you, they want you to succeed. So this understanding might shape the way you act during the interview, and it's quite true, I guess. So the big day comes. The first impression is very important, and what creates a bad impression, I think we should all know about it. It takes 5 seconds to create an impression about somebody. So before you even say a word, by just looking at the way you enter the room, the way you carry your bag, or I don't know, the way you smile, they form an impression about you. So during the job interview process, if it's a negative impression, you're supposed to turn it into a positive one. Or if it's a positive impression, you have to make sure that you enhance that impression. Poor personal appearance, how you look, is important. If you are not looking really clean and tidy, it's bad. Arriving late, it's a no-no thing. Arrive there on time, like 15-20 minutes earlier, for example, to regulate your breathing. If you're really nervous, to calm yourself down, for example, to find the room. There might be some steps you have to follow, like a form to fill in or something. You don't know what they will ask you to do. So going there on time is important. The way you treat others. Before the interview, there is somebody else you should talk to, like the secretary or the personal assistant to the chairperson or somebody. You should really be careful about how you act in their presence, because they will be reporting to the interviewing committee whether you were stressed, whether you were polite enough or not. It happens. We ask the secretary what they think about the candidates. We do it. And sometimes they don't really say positive stuff about the candidates. And they're really direct about such responses. So make sure that you treat people with respect and with kindness, and they could be really influential, whether you get the job or not. Negative attitude, using excuses or negative responses. In general, negativity is not something that's nice. Avoid it, please. Lack of interest and enthusiasm. You have to make sure that they understand you really want this job. Even if you don't want it that much, you might pretend as a start, I don't know. But if you really want it, you have to make sure that they know that you want the job. Lack of preparation, it shows. When you ask them, what is your greatest strength? You see the person thinking at that moment. That's not a good sign. That means they haven't evaluated themselves, really. Poor knowledge of the role, lack of career plan, where you want to be in 5 years, that's a very common interview question. If you have no idea where you want to be, that means you just live your life randomly or something. That might be the assumption they get. It might not be true, but it's a negative perception on your behalf. Body language is another important factor. These are the things that will help you get the job. A good handshake is important, and they pay attention whether you have a good handshake. Don't break their hands, but still a firm handshake is important. Eye contact during the interview, or throughout the whole interview, even the last goodbye bit is important. Smiling and having a positive attitude. Whether you're an approachable person or not, are you easy to talk to? Sometimes it's really hard chatting with someone. You ask the questions, you get short answers. They say yes or no. Well, maybe, sort of. And this doesn't lead to a real conversation with the people. Is it easy to talk to you and converse with you? That's an important issue. Sitting up straight and leaning forward a little bit, showing interest in whatever the other person is saying is important. And mirroring the interview is a great tactic. For example, if they change their body position, you can do the same. If they lean forward, that means something important is coming up, the question is important for them, so you could do the same. If they relax, you could relax. If they smile, you could smile back. So mirroring the behavior, that could turn out to be an advantage for you. Negative things, fidget signal. What's a fidget signal? Like you play with your necklace all the time, or your hair, all right? Or you have a pen and you go like, all right? So those things mean that you're nervous. You cannot keep it under control. It shows. You have to limit those. Staring at the person is not a good idea. So if there is a panel in front of you, you should make sure that you shift your gaze and you keep contact with every person in the panel. Crossed arms and legs, sitting like this, or doing this and going like, okay? That's not a good idea. So keep your movement, just be controlled. That's a good way of putting it. Too much perfume is off-putting. The person might have allergies or something. So the first impression, that's not good. The moment you enter and there's this perfume in there. Interrupting the person, that's very common. For 311 course, we interview students. It's a mock interview for practice purposes. It takes like 10 minutes. They have to say so many things in 10 minutes. So before I even finish my question, they start answering it. So that's very common. This might happen because of nervousness, for example. But try to be patient, listen to the person, wait for them to finish whatever they are saying, and you take your time later to answer your questions. And faking. is not a good idea. Faking a smile, it shows. Just try to be natural. It's stressful. They know that you are stressed out. It's normal. Whether you can keep it under control and under stress, whether you can give cohesive, nice, detailed answers, that's what they're looking for.
What do you mean by cross legs?
Like, I cannot show it right here, I don't know.
Okay, but
Like you sit and you go like,
doesn't it show that you're comfortable?
not really.
So
It means you're too comfortable. Isn't it? Because you are being judged. What you need to do is you sit to